Let's get caught up on the mail and see if we can restock some parts. Some of these things were ordered a very long time ago. This one says LED module, and at this point that could be anything. And we have, looks like, an OLED. Another I2C OLED, but this one is white. The other one I have is blue. I've only had one of these for the longest time, so it's good to have extras anyway, especially when now I'm starting to dedicate them to projects. I kind of need 3 at least now, because I'm putting them on various PCBs, and I still need some for the breadboard. So, extras plus variety of color. 128 by 64 white OLED I2C. I got mine at auction for $2.25. This is your standard I2C 128 by 64, 3.3 or 5 volts, with a display driver SSD 1306, very common. And now that I'm throwing these onto various projects, I should stock up. The beloved plastic sheet has arrived once again. And it is tubes of ICs in a plastic bag. PT2399. These are audio delay ICs. So I'm hoping to make some sort of an audio echo delay circuit, and it may be useful for making sound effects, and it could be used in guitar effects. So future projects. 10 pieces PT2399 echo audio processor. I got 10 of these for $1.50. There's no info in the listing. So this takes an audio input, has an analog to digital converter. So these echo processor ICs were designed for karaoke audio, and they also became popular for guitar effect processing. There's the block diagram, but there's a more intuitive block diagram down below. And here's an echo application circuit, a lot of passive components for the input and output. And here's the more intuitive block diagram. So we have an audio input, goes through a low-pass filter and then out, and at the same time it's being sampled digitally. A delay is applied, digital back to analog, more filtering, and that's mixed in with the original, so that's where you get your echo. The delay time is changed with an external resistor, and it looks like we can get between around 30 milliseconds and 342 milliseconds. Runs at 5 volts, takes 15 to 30 milliamps. And there's lots of info out there about this chip and how to use it, so a fun project waiting to happen. PCB terminal, and indeed PCB screw terminals. So those are typical little screw terminals for circuit boards, and it looks like these would be the 5mm, 5.08 millimeter pitch. I have designed these into some PCBs, like this 555 based sound generator. So now I can actually put these in place on older and new projects. I seem to be designing parts into all these PCBs that I ran out of, so when I'm assembling the boards I have to kind of improvise, like 0.1 inch headers here on this screw terminal. So I'm constantly restocking while trying to think ahead, what else am I going to need sometime soon? 30 pieces, PCB mount screw terminal block, 2-pin, 5mm pitch, 8 amps, 250 volts capability, so it says. I got mine for $1.75. I figure 30 is enough for a long time. And in case there's no data sheet or part number listed, I guess if I really wanted to use these anywhere near the claimed rating here, I would just go look up a part number of something similar and just see if those specs make sense. But I'm just using them for low current, low voltage, maybe as speaker terminals or just DC power input, so they should be fine for anything I'm doing. Integrated circuit times 5 sounds like something I'm restocking. Well, there's 5 of something. No, actually it looks like 10. Oh, this looks like the XL6019 switching regulator, or 6019 as it were. I used one of these as a switching regulator on this Breadboard Buddy PCB, and at the time I had to take this off of another switching regulator, similar to one of these kind of PCBs. So I thought I better get some stock of these in case I need to do another higher power buck boost kind of thing. as opposed to these low current switchers where it just has to have a voltage. I don't care about much power delivery. Good to have options. 10 pieces of XL6019 E1 DC to DC converter, 60 volts, 5 amps. These were US $3.24 and 66 cents shipping, so I factored that in, added it all up, and this was the cheapest I could get at the time. The 6009 version had 5 volts to 32 volts input and was rated at a 4 amp switching current. 6019, 5 volts to 40 volts in and 5 amp switching current. So they look pin compatible, function compatible, just a newer part. There's a boost configuration. There's a buck boost configuration, which is similar to what I did, with 2 inductors. And with even fancier inductor setups, we can get plus and minus voltage rails. This says soldering iron, and I know I ordered one earlier this year. So it's most likely true. Yes. This is a 30 watt and 110 to 120 volt soldering iron. It does come in various other wattages. And some cautions. When you plug it in for the first time, there comes out a smoke from the tip end. The smoke stops in a short while, and a smoke never comes out again. 110 volt soldering iron with a US plug. Available in 30, 40, or 60 watts. I got this a long time ago, and mine was $3.50. So I had to make sure it was North American plug and voltage compatible. I don't think it's a professional tool, and the notes here are the same pretty much as what were on the packaging, including the first time you use this, you're going to get a lot of smoke, could last 10 minutes. So you get what you pay for. It is pretty cheap. I wouldn't trust it for anything important, but just for fun, it was worth it. Right off the bat, of course, it's going to feel cheap. Now, something I don't know how I feel about, this can pivot here while the cord is stationary. It doesn't swing right around, well, it's not supposed to. So this is winding and twisting the AC inside. Maybe I'm going to glue gun that in the very least. It has a non-polarized AC cord. One of the first things I want to see are any exposed metal parts tied to either of these, especially being non-polarized. I don't want this to become live. It looks to be barely over 2 feet long. So maybe plugging it in on the workbench. Otherwise, I need an extension cord. Okay, so nothing connected on that lead. All right, well, at least this is isolated from the AC. But of course, that means not being a grounded tip, I don't know if we want to use this on ESD-sensitive soldering tasks. But the main reason, or reasons I wanted this anyway, first, for a couple of dollars, I just wanted to see how this actually works. And if it does actually work without presenting much of a health hazard, one of the things I wanted to use it for, just occasional things like I take my regular iron, and if I need to remove certain surface mount parts like tweezers, maybe this will have occasional use like that. Or, worst case, some sort of a backup. I can always use it for melting through plastic when I don't want to ruin a perfectly good iron tip on a regular iron. Okay, so this tip comes out. It looks like there's 2 screws just to hold the tip from both sides. So whatever style of iron tip this is, it's not like the ones I've been using. So it'll be fun to see how this holds up as well. Well, here goes nothing. Okay, nothing exploded. I don't see any of that initial smoke they promised yet. Although it is starting to smell like warm mothballs in here. Oh yeah, special effects. I don't know if the camera is picking that up. Oh yeah, there it is, wafting out of the element vent hole area. So it's just burning off its manufacturing chemicals and such. Maybe I should be doing this outside. I'll just let that simmer and come back in a second. The smoke is still coming off of this thing like a barbecue. But they did say it could take 10 minutes. Well, while this thing is still smoking, okay, let's see. We're able to tin the tip. So I just have this old scrap project. I just wanted to see what happens. So it melts solder. Don't know about the longevity of the tip. I'll probably try taking it apart and see what's happening inside here and then try to affix this a little more secure. Another thing I noticed when I'm using this and I'm moving around, let me unplug this actually so I feel a little better. There. When I was using this for a test, I noticed there's nothing here really stopping my fingers from slipping up here onto the hot iron. So everywhere that I'm holding this, I can easily slip and end up touching this. Whereas this one has this rubber tip here, so once I start holding this, it's secure. I have no concerns at all about accidentally slipping. In fact, it's very awkward. If anything, it tends to flip it like that, and I'm still holding it. And my old Weller 30 watt, of course, it has this comfort foam grip, plus like this little area here where you can't really even get past here very easily. So again, I don't feel there's any risk here of burning myself. So maybe I'll get some thermal resistant grip tape or something and try to fix that up a bit. But for a couple of dollars, it's an okay experiment. I'll feel better when I secure this cable. Well, that was a good mix of restocking parts that go on these various PCB projects, including this OLED display and the switching regulator and screw terminals, and a new tool to check out just for fun, and these audio echo delay chips should make for interesting experiments coming soon. Thanks for stopping by and checking out what's going on. Special thanks to Patreon supporters. I have another new one this week, and that really helps make all of this possible. So come back soon, see what's going on, see what I end up making, and see you on the next video.